All right, so this is the drawer that came with this stock kitchen cabinet, and drawers generally, again, this is an inexpensive cabinet, so it's going to be an inexpensive drawer, and you can tell because it's if you look at the edge, you look at the bottom, it's particle board. Okay, you could build these out of hardwood, out of plywood, out of particle board, whatever you really want to do. The higher end, I guess the better ones tend to be made out of hardwood, and then they'd also have a dovetail joint here, and we'll show you what that looks like. But this drawer actually is, you can tell it's full overlay because it sits, again, it's not recessing in there. It's also, this drawer front, it's just a solid piece of oak, and it gets attached to the rest of this drawer box. So the drawer box, I can show it like that. So the drawer box is actually made independently of the front. So the drawer box consists of two sides, a back, a front, and a bottom. Usually these are all, usually tend to see these in 1/2 inch widths. The bottom's either in 1/4 inch thickness or 3/8. Sometimes you see them in 1/2 inch as well. And then typically the front gets tacked to the front of the box, and then we add screws through the front into the actual hardwood section to keep it attached. The hardware in this case is like a European style hardware, and they're visible. This is very inexpensive. The better drawers, the higher end drawers, will have hidden drawer runners that actually run underneath it. And when you pull the drawer out, you actually won't see them unless you look underneath it. And this drawer is actually, this one's assembled just with some butt joints, so some glues, and it looks like some staples. And so it's very inexpensive. Over time, this won't hold up. So 10, 15 years from now, this drawer maybe, depending how much abuse it sees, may start to break down, especially considering it's particle board. Again, the higher end ones would have a visible dovetail joint right in here, which you really only going to do with solid hardwood. You're not going to do that with plywood or anything. But we can see from this one that there's just some staples in here. So when we're going to start getting into the planning section of our drawer, we will talk about how to lay it out. But generally, there tend to be some standards for this width. If you're talking about a base cabinet, drawers tend to have a certain type of height to them, and we'll get into that when we plan them. And then so everything is kind of formulaic when it comes to drawers, because you're using a certain type of hardware. In this case, you're using this inexpensive one, but we'll be using a better one from a different manufacturer. And that manufacturer actually provides specifications, so you enter in the width of the cabinet, how deep it is, and whether you're using an inset door or drawer front or a full overlay, and they will tell you how big to make the box. They'll actually give you the dimensions, and then you can spec out the parts, do your machining, put it together however you want to, as long as you maintain that overall dimensions that manufacturer specifies. And then you can basically build your box from that and build it out of whatever you want. If you want to build it out of plywood, or if you want to actually get some nice higher grade hardwood. One thing some higher end manufacturers will do is they'll use a piece of walnut on the front and maybe some maple on the sides of these cabinet boxes. And when you have your dovetail joint, you get a nice contrast between the light and the dark wood. But that's more of a high-end thing there. So the last thing we'll just touch briefly on is the shelves. The shelf in this particular piece is a just piece of particle board that's been veneered on 3 sides. And you have the option of using a solid piece of hardwood or plywood. What I usually use is plywood with a piece of hardwood in front of it to hide the plywood edge. And that gives you a cheap way to make some shelves. It's very inexpensive. Hardwood tends to be very narrow and too expensive to make shelves out of. It's kind of crazy to make it out of hardwood. And we'll have enough plywood from our cabinet builds for making our sides and our bottoms, and all that will account for shelving material as well. They usually just rest on some pins. This one's got some plastic pins it sits on. Again, you can make the depth however you want, or you can plan on doing pull-out drawers or whatever you want to do. But usually, we'll allow for some additional shelving material when we're parting this stuff out, and some little extra hardwood to hide the edge. You also have the option of veneering on a piece of veneer to match the rest of the plywood if you just want to do straight plywood and not have the hardwood attached. So you can do that as well. And we'll get into that when we make an IKEA style cabinet in this course.